So we've got the new patch dropped. I tend to focus on doing expeditions content. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a quick little look through of patch 0.9.2. Just take a look at how things might have changed specifically for expeditions. Like better players, Mogwai, Swim, and stuff have gone through what the patch is going to be like for constructed. And I'm not a constructed deck builder. I always just need to dig my way through that. But for constructed, for draft, I feel a little bit more experienced. It's my format of choice, even though I think plenty could be changed. What I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to be just going through the cards and just talking about how to affect expeditions in a more in-depth way. Alright, this is just going to be quick. I'm going to aim for like 10 minutes. I said in-depth and then quick. That's dumb. Alright, Hecarim. Yeah, okay. So this is still a viable card in expeditions. The problem with Hecarim is that his archetypes were always a little bit awkward to get into. And Ephemeral is already pretty high roll if you go all in on it on constructed. And in expeditions, even more so. But, I mean, 4/5 summoning 2/2/2s is still a really strong card to drop. Like, the reason you don't pick Hecarim is because you've got, like, other stronger champions to choose from, like Garen, maybe Zed, things like that. But Hecarim, if you're already in Shadow Isles, if you're offered it, if you've got the opportunity to go into Ephemeral, it's kind of like still pretty good. Losing health sucks, but in the majority of matchups other than P and Z, it probably shouldn't matter too much. And yeah, he's just going to be slower, but the idea of just lowering this Ephemeral count is really useful and makes him a lot more viable in terms of actually leveling up. And now Onslaught of Shadows as well, I guess I should touch on this. Onslaught of Shadows is now a lot better to draft, going from 2 to 3, because essentially you just want to get those bodies out for Hecarim. If you've got the unit that buffs Ephemerals, if you want to, bring out Sharks as well. So this is actually, I would say, a pretty decent buff. Before you had summon 3 1-dropper Ephemerals, which is, I just never liked it that much because they don't attack for as much, and you're only using them to sort of trigger off things like pranks and stuff like that. I think this is just straight up better now, so that's really good if you're going for the Ephemeral archetype. Callista is really hard because until I've tested her and picked her, which, to be honest, I've never picked her in expeditions because she was always pretty awful and would just die to anything. Like the stat increase, hard to deny that. The bonded ally, look, Callista died as soon as she bonded with an ally, so that's really hard to care for that. And I've seen 4 allies die. That is a hard condition to get in draft, I feel. I mean, okay, it's easy to get if you play Callista on 3 and then just don't interact with her for ages, but that's just not worth doing. Fearsome tags are not good for that. Like, Lucian's way more likely to see 4 allies die, I feel, even though he's got less health. It's just really hard. And look, if you do manage to pull it off, then yeah, she's really good, especially if you've got something like a big Demacia bomb. But I still can't in good conscience say pick Callista over pretty much any other champion in the game. How does at the moment? And Black Spear, yep, has just gone from easy pick and removal to only take it if there's better stuff in that pack. Followers and spells. Border Lookout becomes Vanguard Lookout and gets the Elite tag. Good news, that is a huge buff. That is a great buff specifically for expeditions. It's arguably a nerf in constructed because then you get it from Silverwing, what's his face. But yeah, the Elite tag is fantastic. Blacksmith is so much better in expeditions than in constructed. That suddenly becomes a 3-drop, which is 2/5. So it becomes like the highest stat line 3-drop basically that you can play. That's really good. So much Elite synergy. This card was sort of like 2 for 1 in expeditions wasn't bad, but it was literally just a block twice before dying. Now it is really good with Blacksmith. It counts as an Elite, so you'll get your 4 for 3 done cheaper as well. Border Lookout to Vanguard Lookout, that's really good. Just a lot of them. It's a much better pick. There we go. That's what I was trying to say. Trying to talk faster than my brain can think. Mage Seeker Inciter. Here we go. This is a huge buff. As mentioned, it's probably not going to see constructed play just because the idea of popping off a 6-cost spell on turn 3 consistently, while you can do it, you probably just have to sacrifice too much to get your deck to that point. Whereas now at any point, this is a 6-5 for 4 in expeditions where that is a premium stat line. The only way, I mean, I would rather have 5-6 for sure, but 6-5 is a premium stat line for 4. You can easily get 6-cost spells, and at any time you want to drop that. The unit is super useful at any time. The only problem with that is, again, Demacia has the best 5 drops in the game, and the difference between 4 and 5 is pretty negligible. Like, you can't consistently get it out on 4, but all the discarded spells stuff was useless. It was trash. I would never ever pick that and would just immediately swap them out. Even when I had forced them in my deck, it's almost always better to just keep the spell. But now it's a lot stronger. Again, I wouldn't go out of my way to pick it, but if you've already got Lux, like Lux and a couple of decent spells, you're fine. That's good. Mage Seeker Investigator. I really liked the old text. I felt like it was one of those cards where it was going to be good as the game progressed and there were more targets for you to effectively silence. Now, on the other hand, Create a Detain. And, I mean, the reason I would say this isn't that good and you don't really play it as one, it doesn't have the elite tag. So, you kind of always want the elite tag if you're playing Demacia, even if you don't have the like synergy stuff. It's still just better to have, especially because you're likely to get offered something elite based later. And creating a Detain, you get offered Detain a lot. Detain is a very easy card to get in expeditions, and you should basically have 1 or 2 every time you play Demacia. So here you're getting a Detain, which you probably won't be able to play on the same turn. You are getting a blocker body, which is nice, but they're going to know the Detain is coming. So it's less of a surprise factor. Look, is it unplayable? No. Is it useful? Like, again, there's so many better 3-drops you could be playing. This is if you've got a pack with 2 other good cards in it, I definitely wouldn't turn it down. But I think you're just better off picking Detain in most cases. Although, I mean, there's situations where your opponent has 2 big bodies on the board, and Detain wouldn't save you, and Mage Seeker Investigator would block one, and you could Detain the other. It might save you a bit more there. So, it's always got that. Mage Seeker Persuader. We've got a huge 2-drop. What if I just switch back over to Runeterra? So, let's just take a look at everything in Demacia that costs 2. Go away. Alright, so we've got, Lucian, which is someone pulled. I mean, obviously Lucian's the best. Battlesmith's great. Bright Steel, it's fantastic. These 2, they're elites, they're fantastic. Yeah, okay. The problem with Mage Seeker Persuader is he's a good stat line and a class where every 2-drop is playable. Well, now the Vanguard Lookout got elite. Everything is playable here. Honestly, I think Vanguard Defender's probably the worst, because that tough just doesn't mean that much, considering most units will be coming in and probably more on the 3-2 stat line, and Vanguard Lookout's going to be double blocking anyway. But, I mean, Mage Seeker Persuader, a 4-3 Challenger is huge. You're going to be able to hit that 6-cost spell pretty consistently. It's really good. The only reason I would say not to pick it is you already have too many 2-drops. So, yeah. But I mean, if you've already picked Lux from the start, then suddenly this becomes a lot more impressive than Battlesmith, sort of thing. I guess that's how I'd go there. Alright, let's continue this. How long have I been doing? Probably too long. Whoops. Alright, let's go through this quickly. Crowd favorite, down 1 health, bit of a ping, still extremely playable in both Constructed and Expeditions. If you're going Noxus, and I don't think Noxus is going to be the strongest anymore, I'm pretty sure Demacia's got that position fulfilled. Then you still want to play crowd favorite. As long as you've got 3+ units, he's an extremely high value card that will win you games very quickly. Because as long as they don't have it's removal you have to worry about, like Vengeance, Detain. They don't care about crowd favorite's health. Just things about avoiding quick shots and get excited, things like that. Which crowd favorite, as long as he gets 1 attack in, I don't think he really cares about. Like, that's the thing. If you drop crowd favorite, you should be killing with him by the 2nd attack at the most. Iceborne Legacy. Look. Like, Elnuck's got nerfed, which I guess we'll get to. It's not terrible, but like you have to have a very, very specific draft to play this because it's fizzleable. It's 5 cost. That's a really expensive stat line. You're gonna need to have like drafted 4 or 5 of a unit to really get the kind of impact you want out of Iceborne Legacy. When you can just play a 5-drop that'll buff everything in your deck by +1/+1 anyway, and that gives you a 5/5 body with it. It's look, in a very specific draft you might play this. Pack mentality, it's huge now. The problem was you just couldn't consistently have a group, especially because sort of Elnarks, there's only 2 of them, and unless you pulled a lot of Elnarks, then yeah, just not that useful. And what is it, Yetis? Yetis were okay. I think it was a little bit better with Yetis, but Yetis already were 5/5. One of the Yetis already had Detain. Overwhelm. Now pack mentality is you just slowly build up a big board over time with Freljord and someone else. Demacia, like giving everyone in Demacia Overwhelm, you win right there. Like, that's good. All you need to do, have a board, 4+ units that are reasonably chunky, and you win. Like, don't ever draft more than one of them. Like, there's better, bigger units you can go for, but pack mentality is now, I feel, a lot more playable because it's so much less situational. Poro snacks, I mean, if you got a Poro draft, I think it's still unplayable and constructed. If you've got a Poro draft, I think, yeah, that's actually not the worst. But you're still drafting Poros, so it's still kind of a meme. As mentioned here, it's the worst performing Expedition archetype by a large margin. I don't think this is going to close that margin. I think it's going to... I mean, like, it might get you to 3 wins when you were previously losing at 2, I guess is what I'd say here. Group of Elnarks, yep, this is crashed now. I thought they'd go down to maybe 8 cards, but 6 cards. You're in meme territory. Like... Okay, here's how you pick Troop of Elnarks. As if you've been offered like 2 of the other 4 for 4/5 Elnarks, which is still a premium body. So you would pick that because 4 for 4/5 is great. And let's say you pick 2 of those, and then suddenly you just get offered Troop of Elnarks, and then Troop of Elnarks, and then Troop of Elnarks, and then suddenly you're playing a 30-card deck where you can easily put like 6 Elnarks in it. Maybe then it's sort of kind of playable, but still, it's way too much of a risk for a 5 for 3/3, and where Freljord has much better going for them. Bring that over. Like, goddamn, every time. Like, Rime-Toss Shaman, insane. This card will stall you out for ages. Rime-Toss Shaman is what lets you build up for your pack mentality. And Avaros and Halfguard, I really shouldn't have to explain why that's just a fantastic card on top of a fantastic body. And Scar Maiden Reavers, okay. The only reason I wouldn't pick Scar Maiden is because most regions have better 5-drops. And again, these 2 are phenomenal 5-drops. So that's why it's really hard to justify taking Troop of Elnarks. I think maybe they buff it back up to like 7 or 8, and then I would say it's playable in Expeditions because you're running a smaller deck than Constructed. But until then, I think it's dead in both formats. Navori Conspirator, yeah, look, it's going to ruin your damage a little bit, but if you're running enough 1-drops, you've got Omen Hawks, things like that, if you've got enough 1-drops to bounce to your hand, it's still going to be a consistently good card, and elusives are just really hard to deal with in Expeditions in general. Chumpwump, big nerf. 4/3 means suddenly it's trading with 2-drops, trading with 3-drops. That makes it a lot worse. In general, I feel Chumpwump was mostly for the body. Maybe you needed discard fodder. And Puffcaps is not the best in Expeditions, or as we've established, better than Poros. So, I mean, I don't think you're really going for better 4-drops than that. I mean, yeah, like Jinx, obviously. Back alley Barkeep's a pretty awful stat line. Look, it's still probably the best non-champion 4-drop for PNZ if you needed them, but it's really lost a lot of defensive value. Flash of Brilliance, depending on the deck you're in, this is a nerf or a buff. I would say if you're going Like, if you're going Lux, this is just straight up a huge buff. This is fantastic. This is a great card now. It's phenomenal. You want these 6-card spells, 6-cost spells consistently, and basically almost every 6-cost spell in the game is going to have a decent impact on the game once you've played it. And we've already established we've got Mage Seekers, which have gone from unplayable to relatively playable. Yeah, so I do think that Flash of Brilliance, if you've got Lux, if you've got a couple of Mage Seekers, huge upgrade, and it's essentially free. So yeah, that's good. Rummage, just a straight upgrade. If you're playing discard style things, this is really good. It lets you just clear out a junk card if your hand is bricked with Rummage. Really no complaints. Unstable Voltician. Look, it's a meme and constructed for a reason. In Expeditions, not too bad. You can also like play a fast or a burst spell, 6-cost spell, and 6+. They should really put the plus there. Yeah, like, your opponent's definitely going to know when he gets that buff. That's never going to be like a surprise buff. It's okay. Like, we're talking PNZ here. They don't really have a lot of good 5-cost options. Like, they've got Funsmith, where, yeah, Funsmith, meh. Chempunk Shredder, meh. I mean, Heimer, sure. Like, Heimer's obviously better than that. He's not a terrible 5-drop, but it's basically the same. Cool. And Brood Awakening, also just strictly a buff. In Expeditions, it's really hard to say. I mean, if you're running like Death Unit Synergy, this becomes a lot better. Fighters, yeah. I mean, I think you go for it just because it's really hard for a lot of Expedition decks to sort of consistently clear out a board. So yeah, I do think, I mean, what would I have put it? I'd have put it as maybe like a 4 out of 10. I'd put it as like a 3 out of 10 card before, and it's like a 5 out of 10 now. It's not bad. Let me just check here. Like, it's better than, what's his face? The other 5-drop spider. Oh wait, that's the Noxus one, isn't it? Where am I looking at? Arachnoid Host. It's like, I would say it's better than Arachnoid Host now, even though that's a bigger body and it swings for more. I mean, ideally you're going like Brood Awakening, Arachnoid Host. That'd be good. Yeah, it's playable, but not pickable, if that makes sense. Mark the Isles. Yeah, look, this is pretty much the same for Constructed as it is for Expeditions. Maybe it was a little bit, it's hard to say. Like, trading bodies in Expeditions is more important. Big chunky bodies are huge. So yeah, it's definitely weaker. It's definitely bad, especially if you're going for like Shadow Isles, Noxus, aggro. It's worse as a finisher. It stops you killing things like Zed. It's definitely a downgrade. Again, it's sort of like, I wouldn't go out of the way to pick that anymore, whereas then you've got, whatchamacallit, like, Elixir of Wrath is probably better than that now if you're going for aggro builds. Yeah, it's, and Rekindler, look, 6 to 7, it's going to have an impact on you, but if you've got things like Hecarim, if you've got Garen, you're not expected to, like, consistently hit as much of a curve with an Expedition. So yeah, I think Rekindler is still playable, but like, you probably don't want to be drafting 3 Rekindler, which I actually think my current Expedition has. So we've got some more changes here. Then Expedition archetypes, Demacia and Steel, adding in Mobilize over thing here. God, I can't even remember what Mobilize is, so that should be a certainly a sign as to what it is. Yeah, Mobilize. Okay, that's, I mean, I don't pick Mobilize. I've seen other players pick Mobilize, and I feel like there's just, like, getting your 5-drop out of turn early is definitely good. It's definitely, I don't think it's worth giving up your turn 3, especially when you can play like a region which has good 4-drops. Just going 3, 4, 5 is, I think, better than going nothing 5, 5. So yeah, Mobilize, and I think back-to-back was still extremely playable. So it's a shame that that's gone now. So I would say that is a bit of a nerf there. Removing Elixir of Wrath, yeah, that's really unfortunate there. Elixir of Wrath was fantastic as a finisher. Guile sucks. I'm sorry, it does. It's just terrible. The only reason Guile is useful is if like they've dropped a big unit and you want to stall for it. I can't just, like, it's terrible. You want to put Elixir of Wrath on a crowd favorite and do 10 and win the game, and you just can't do that anymore. That's a nerf to Noxus. Shroom and Boom, taking out Scrap Dash Assembly and bringing in the Elusive. Sure. I mean, Scrap Dash Assembly, it strikes me as a pretty neutral one. Like, it's a decent defensive Elusive, but that deck has never really cared about dealing damage with Elusives that weren't Team O. And Scrap Dash Assembly was just block fodder. Again, I think you get a little worse at dealing with aggro, or getting a little bit better with dealing with Elusive. So, whatever. Spellbound, getting rid of Detain, so of course the unit that makes Detains is going to be a better pick, because you're going to be finding Detain less, because God knows, the game just handed you Detains beforehand, which made Demacia even more terrifying, because it basically always had incredible 5-drops and removal on turn 5. But adding back-to-back in, it's a 6-cost spell, so that probably does even it out. It's really hard to turn down back-to-back, and it's, yeah. Like, let's say you've got this new Mage Seeker Insider. It goes into combat. It's a 4/4/3. You've got like a little bit of spell mana. They block it. Suddenly, you back-to-back. Well, okay, let's say you've got 2 of this. You play 1 on 4, 1 on 5. On 6, you back-to-back. So then you've got a 2/9/8 swinging with back-to-back, and then this triggering here. That is gigantic. That wins you the game. Okay, it doesn't win you the game, but it clears their board, guaranteed, and they survive just to go on to the next turn. That is crazy. Again, it's really hard. Actually, you know what? I'm going to say, yeah, that is probably a buff for Spellbound. And a whole situation where Spellbound was already doing which was already buffed in other places. Relentless, adding Lucian and Laurent Duelist. I really don't love Laurent Duelist, because it's just not that great on 3. And removing Garen and Brightsteel Protector. This... yeah, I mean, this strikes me as just a nerf here. As much as I think Lucian is good. I think he's a really solid champion. But Garen, again, as mentioned here, the most played, probably the strongest. I think, yeah, and Brightsteel Protector is absolutely better than Laurent Duelist. This is definitely a nerf for the Relentless Demacia. Although I still think Demacia overall is probably the strongest, because it got buffs in its other archetypes and the Spellbound archetype. If you're looking at Demacia as, like, Demacia went from being like 2/3 the best cards in the game to like the entire region is very, very good. It's the most consistent region. Almost anything you draft is going to be solid. Cool. Battle Scars. Oh, jeez. Alright, this is quite a bit. Yeah. Adding Might, Alpha Wildclaw, Avaros and Marksman, and Battle Fury. God, the game already gives you Alpha Wildclaw. Way too much. Removing Blood for Blood, Bull Elnuk, Kindly Tavern Keeper. So look, Elnuk's just got more inconsistent. They're even worse in Expeditions. Kindly Tavern Keeper was useful at keeping things like Bull Elnuks alive. Starlight Seer I felt was always a little too inconsistent in the format, and Blood for Blood, yeah, you don't even want to pick that. Alpha Wildclaw is good. Might is okay. Avaros and Marksman, again, okay, but I mean, unless you've got Israel, probably not that useful. And Battle Fury is a really nice finisher because there's a lot less answers for it going around. Yeah, like this has been around for a while, so alright, that's why we've been seeing so much more Alpha Wildclaw. Yeah, look, I'd say it's probably about even. Shadows and Dust has a high chance to appear when it's your primary archetype. Fair enough. Ephemeral gives units. Yeah, this is just a buff to Ephemeral. So I think, like, Shadows and Dust. I don't have the list right on me, but I believe Shadows and Dust is like sharks. I mean, if you can draft 4 sharks, you generally just sort of win right off the bat. Let me just see here if I can find tier list. And I did have it somewhere here. Somewhere. Alright. Anyway, it's just good. If you get units that want to go ephemeral, that's good. That's just a buff. Total recall is adding amateur Aeronaut for Golden Crushbot. I like Golden Crushbot a lot. They called Crushbot one of their weaker units? I mean, I guess? Like, 3 for 2-5. I don't know. I really liked how it could just take out two drops and still be alive at the end of it. And then Aeronaut, I don't think it's that strong, to be honest, but it makes stuff like PNZ, Ionia a little bit better. And Arachnophilia adds Elixir of Wrath. Cool. Alright, so there you go. That fixes the little Noxiamite issue there. So Spiders gets a little bit better. Yeah. So, cool. Alright, that are the changes. So far, it's been interesting. I would say it's hard to say. Yeah, I think Noxus slight nerf. Shadow Isles was nerfed just because of everything else sort of coming down. Freljord buffed. Demacia slightly weaker at the highest power level, but it was already so goddamn consistent. And now it's just like a flat line where every archetype is good and gonna work with everything else. And yeah, so like what else have we got? Ionia more or less stayed flat. PNZ about the same as well. Alright, so that is the patch review specifically for Expeditions.